you know that Republicans in the state, Republicans out of the state, look at what you guys are doing and thinking you're running away from the fight. You're running away from your jobs by not being in Austin today.
Yeah, no. Abandoning your job is going to Cancun in the middle of a deadly freeze, right? Abandoning your job is cutting health care when people need access. Abandoning your job is cutting public education when we already have one of the worst education systems in the nation. What we are doing is the fundamental protection by our founding fathers in the Texas Constitution. When Donald Trump called Georgia Republicans and said, I just need you to find me 11,000 votes, they said, no, sir, that's a step too far. But when he called Texas Republicans and said, I need you to steal me 5 seats, they said, does July work for you? Well, it doesn't work for us as Texas Democrats.
Hoo-wee! Texas State Rep Ann Johnson. Thanks to Kim Nyborg for sending that one so good. I thought I'd start us off with it. Hit it, Jon Carroll. Stand up. Hello, my friends. Welcome to today's episode of Stand Up, where I will be welcoming Heated.World climate journalist Emily Atkin joins me today. Yesterday, you heard her conversation with Bill McKibben, and today I've got her herself. Looking forward to sharing that with you. It's coming up at about 31 minutes into today's show. But I got to get to your headlines and clips. Just want to remind you, it is Thursday. I will be hosting another amazing Hangout tonight at 8 East. If you're a paid subscriber, you'll be getting a link emailed to you or in today's show post. Sorry, I didn't include the audio in the last 2 days' posts. The audio is posted in several different places as soon as I click post. But then when you go over to the Patreon subscriber, it's a different post that I have to do, and I forgot to include the audio. Sorry, Brent. Sorry, Carl, and anybody else who listens on the Patreon, in the Patreon app. I don't really care how you listen. I'm so happy to have you listening. The best way to chart the numbers is on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or any other podcast player you have. It all collects the data. But there's also my website, standupwithpete.com. If you have any trouble getting the show, it's posted there as well every day. So if you can remember that one. And there's also a host site. So lots of places to find the show if it's not in one place or another. And sometimes it's not, because I'll make an edit, I'll have to fix something, and then it doesn't go back to the Apple listener because you got the original. So it can be confusing. Do not let your heart be troubled, as the great Sean Hannity loves to say, who had me quoting Hannity right here at the opening. And finally, just wanted to remind you, we are just under a month away now from Farm Jam. That's right, Farm Jam. Central New York, Syracuse, New York, just outside where I grew up, where Kevin Richburg now lives on his farm. You are invited to the farm. Camp out, fun and games, daily excursions, a barbecue. It's going to be great, and we're looking forward to meeting you, having you, and just hanging out and connecting the way we do. We'll be having a Zoom hangout hopefully early next week. We'll have a special meeting just for people who are considering coming or are coming, so we can talk about what to expect. Look for that announcement as well. All right, let's do it. It's time for your headlines and your clip show. Hit it again, Jon Carroll.
It's Pete's Headlines and Clip Show. Get in on the shit show. It ain't the worst of it, though. Pete knows what you might want to hear while checking out at the Costco. When you're topping off.
Yeah, topping off. Why is Jon Carroll so brand loyal to Citgo? I think it just rhymed. I think he just worked it in. The great Jon Carroll. See him live, joncarroll.org. All right, let's start your headlines. It is time to talk about the most important news stories in the world, at least according to me. Apparently, our Mad King is going to meet with their Mad King. The Trump-Putin meeting has been agreed upon in principle, according to the Kremlin, and that should be great. We don't know. We don't have a date. It's supposed to be in the, quote, coming days. They're going to meet in person. So that'll be, I'm sure it'll be all on the up and up. And I'm sure they'll have their aides in there with them. I'm sure they won't be them alone like they did before and Trump won, right? Huh? 5 soldiers are in stable condition and are expected to recover from their injuries after a shooting yesterday morning at Fort Stewart Army Base in Georgia. Press conference, a spokesman for the 3rd Infantry Division said the investigation in the incident is still ongoing. Authorities are not yet releasing identities of the victims. Of course, they know that the shooter himself was a part of that base. He was an Army sergeant on that base, and they have no motive as of right now, anything that I've read. But the only thing I want to say about that is it's completely expected. Yeah. I mean, this guy wasn't ever deployed, apparently. I don't know if he was suffering from some kind of mental malady or another, but he wasn't supposed to have a gun even on that base. And so it's the guns. Let's start there. But also, yeah, military training. They need some untraining, it sounds like, as well, all the time. So that was pretty horrific to see yesterday, but apparently no one was killed as well. And I wonder if that means you gun people out there can tell me the difference between a pistol and a rifle. I mean, if you get shot by an AR-15, that is a lot more violent on your body, I believe, than most pistol-sized calibers. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I thought that was, yeah, if you're getting shot, you want to get shot by a pistol, apparently. All right, well, that's America. Yesterday, the Mad King said that he was going to double tariffs on India from 25 to 50%. In an executive order, he said, I find that the government of India is currently directly or indirectly importing Russian Federation oil. Due to those purchases, imports of Indian goods into the United States shall be subject to an additional rate of duty, 25%. We'll see what happens with that. That's a pretty big trading partner. Well, you heard from that Texas State Rep Ann Johnson at the top. Well, those Democratic state legislators from Texas, they had to evacuate their hotel where they're staying in suburban Chicago because of a threat at the property. And a news conference set to feature Democratic Senator Dick Durbin had to be canceled. Later in the morning, the governor, who I've got a couple great clips from, J.B. Pritzker, authorized Illinois State Police to become involved in protecting the lawmakers. As a matter of fact, I'll just play that one right now.
Donald Trump is pouring gasoline on the fire. I'm quite concerned as a result of him weighing in.
Are you concerned that these people are actually in physical danger?
I am. Last night, before the bomb threat came in, there was a right-wing blogger who apparently has been given credentials at the White House, who showed up at the location that many of these legislators are at with video and showing off where it is, basically said, these are fugitives. These folks have not broken the law. They have not. So we've got state police with them now. They've got their own private security as well. We've got local law enforcement involved, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe. I will say that Donald Trump is pouring gasoline on the fire with everything that he says about this topic, though, and I'm quite concerned as a result of him weighing in.
Yeah. The guy is going to get more people killed. Trump, that is. But J.B. Pritzker doing his best there. And I'll come back to the clips, but I got to get back to the headlines here. And so a couple stories related to ICE, which is part of Department of Homeland Security. We saw 20% lower deportations apparently last month, but that's when the bill had just been passed, and now they're going to have a lot more resources. But just in case they don't have enough resources, apparently ICE is taking people from FEMA. The Department of Homeland Security has reassigned dozens of Federal Emergency Management Agency employees over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement to help vet and process new hires for the government's mass deportation initiative. Oh, and if that's not enough, well, now they're also going to remove age limits for new hires at the agency possible for immigration enforcement. It expands. This is all about hiring a massive amount of people with this new infusion of cash from Congress. So I don't know if they're going to turn teenagers into ICE agents with these requirements, or more middle-aged and older people that they're trying to recruit into ICE. But I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong with that or this. In the past, Olympic Games held on American soil, sitting presidents have served in passive ceremonial roles. But not this time. No. Old Schittler may have other plans. He signed an executive order naming himself the chair of the White House Task Force on 2028 games in Los Angeles because, he wants more credit, more power, and something else to completely fuck up. So that should go really well. Every day the guy reminds you of how disgusting he is, how much of an asshole he is, how stupid he is, and every day he does something which is a hallmark from the authoritarian playbook. It's almost just too on the nose when he names things after himself, builds this ballroom, gets the $1 billion plane. I mean, he is grifting. He is getting himself a birthday military parade, and now he's got to run the Olympics. It's a daily shit show for all of us every day. You are not alone. No, ma'am. Sir? Ma'am, sir. I don't know who's listening, but either way, you know that you're not alone as we all experience this together. And it sucks, but I'm happy to be here with you. So there's that. What else do I want to share with you in the headlines? Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, who is a loyal Trump ally, very MAGA, said she's not going to run for governor there in Tennessee, thus making that state even crazier. She's way, way out there in crazy, crazy land. Oh, and yesterday, the CEO of Apple, Tim Apple, is that his name? He was in the Oval Office announcing a huge investment into U.S. production, and he gave Schittler like a gift. Like, he really did the whole thing. Bent the knee, kissed the ring, whatever phrase you want to say. But it was very gross, and I don't like it. I didn't like it, and it made me not want to buy Apple things. But I still will, because I am a cult. I'm an Apple cult person. And lastly, I did want to mention that yesterday was the a horrific anniversary. Of course, the dropping of the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima was August 6th. And so I think that's really probably an anniversary we should never not mention. But it was 80 years ago yesterday, August 6th, 1945. And that Nagasaki, 3 days later, left the two cities void of their color and life. The New York Times had some pictures of the excruciating aftermath of the bombings in stark black and white, and I don't suggest that you look at them necessarily, but did get this text from Nick DiFabrizio, who I believe reminds me of it every year, and he wrote, "The 80th anniversary of the dropping of an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, millions of years of evolution of life on this planet, culminating in humans, leaped forward and backward simultaneously that day. We should all reflect on those events and what they tell us about humanity or our lack of humanity." Yeah, Nick, deep cup, buddy. Always very thoughtful, longtime listener, supporter, and great friend, and kind of in many ways a spiritual guide for me and others with his sense of morality and his sense of giving and purpose. We love you, Nick, and I appreciate you sending that to me. All right, let's get to the clips that I've got for you. It's time for the clip show part of the news and clips. Let's start with Tim Miller. I like Tim Miller. I don't think he is the best commentator, the most insightful commentator, but he's good. He's really good, and he's had quite a journey, and he was on MSNBC yesterday, and he was talking about basically saying what we're all saying and thinking about the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and how moving her to a minimum security prison and potentially making a plea deal, potentially giving her clemency or a pardon would be terrible. And trying to break that down, a lot of people have done it, and I just think that Tim does a pretty good job at it in this clip, so I wanted to share it with you.
On the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, just really quick, yes, she was participating in the child rape, essentially. She also was, essentially the ringleader of an effort to groom dozens, maybe hundreds of kids, of young girls, into essentially sex slavery. Right? Her job was she would go recruit 14 to 17-year-old girls, also some older young women. She would recruit these girls and have them come over to the house, sometimes participate in the sex, sometimes tell them what Jeffrey liked, and then would hold money over them, would hold threats over them to keep them in, his clutches, I'm sorry to use such a gross term, for a period of time. What she did was monstrous. And so, going back to what you and Glenn were talking about, I've also talked to folks, I don't have this 100% on sources, but the sense is that there's not any other sex offenders in a low security prison like hers, of any type. So, not that, you want to rank the different types of sex crimes, but Ghislaine's is about the worst. It's about as bad as you can do. Recruiting dozens of girls into, a quasi-sex slavery. What is worse than that? And she's the only one with any sex crimes that gets this kind of treatment. Something is amiss there. It's not like an accident. It's not like, it's a coinky-dink that Todd Blanche went down there, and 3 days later she has the best treatment of any sex offender in the entire federal prison system. There's a deal that has happened there. So, why are they willing to do that? Back to your original question, I don't know. I do. This other fact that we know that we can just say, which is they have a file of the times that Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files. And they've admitted to it. They said that they had FBI officials that were looking through. They had a Microsoft SharePoint file. They flagged every time Trump was named. So if it's not that bad and whatever is in there is better than, the perception of putting Ghislaine in this prison, then they could just put that out, and they haven't.
Yeah. Why didn't they do that? Why haven't they done that? I don't know. But great points by Tim Miller. How about this? This is satisfying. The Scottish actor, Brian Cox, guy from Succession, of course. I like this. Let's do it.
He might be an idiot, but he's a dangerous idiot. And that's what I think is the problem, really, that we have to deal with. Because I personally couldn't, I lived through 4 years of him before. And I shan't be going back to America too much in the next, even though I got my 2 sons there and my wife is there from time to time. But I can't deal with this man. I mean, I can't believe that they have voted for him in the way they have voted for him. And they can't see what he is. I mean, the guy is a liar, I mean, he's a fantasist of the first order. But it's also something to do about the state of the world. It very much reflects where we are as a world, And I think that's the biggest problem of all, is that we're in a very bad way. If that man does become president, that means a lot of Americans are in a very bad way.
Yeah. A lot of Americans are in a very bad way. That's one way of saying it. All right, so somehow J.B. Pritzker made it to New York to sit down with Stephen Colbert, and I thought this was so good and so poignant and a little fun and funny here at the top as well. J.B. Pritzker, Stephen Colbert, they have something in common. What is it?
You're a billionaire, okay? Not a very popular thing to be right now.
I'm okay with it.
You're okay with it, I'm sure. You know what? That shows real courage. But
I've got to stand up for my people,
The thing is, you don't have to work anywhere, let alone in the government. Being a politician seems like kind of a cruddy job these days. Why do you want to do the job you're doing?
It's a pretty serious question, and I know we're on a show that isn't always that serious, but
or always that funny.
Well, I'll try not to be funny then as I answer this question. I know you lost your father when you were young. I lost my father and my mother when I was young, and my mother was my hero. I mean, she really was, and she was an activist, an advocate for reproductive rights. I mean, long before, frankly, it was commonplace, the 60s and the early 70s. And when I was growing up, she took me to all the rallies and the marches, and I absorbed a lot of her enthusiasm. And so I have to say that I think you know this, that when you lose a parent when you're young, during your lifetime, you're hoping to, in some way, honor them, and in fact, to fulfill something that they may have wanted to do during their lifetimes. And so standing up for people's rights and making sure that we're making life more affordable, raising the minimum wage, protecting people from the onslaught of somebody like Donald Trump, that's something my mother would be out doing right now. And so I'm very proud.
Yeah, there you go. How about it? That was, I thought, real poignant. Made me cry. Now, let's listen to another comedian. It's Marc Maron, who I have a lot of admiration for. I actually just texted him a couple weeks ago as I was watching the show Stick on Apple TV, which I loved, with Owen Wilson. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. It's a feel-good show for sure. It's very kind of feel-good. Yeah, I think. That's the best way to describe it. Anyway, Maron is great. My old producer, Brendan McDonald, one of my first producers, left me to go back to work with Marc Maron. So I have a connection to him that way as well. And I've always enjoyed him, his perspective, and the way that he talks to and treats a lot of folks. He's got a good reputation amongst comedians, certainly at this point. And so he's done with his amazing, groundbreaking, trailblazing podcast. He's decided to walk away from it. He's doing a lot of great acting, and he's been talking to a lot of other people. I really should try to make an effort to get him on. I'm just terrified of the possible rejection. If Mark's like, I don't want to do it. But either way, here he is talking to a couple of comedians. Doesn't matter who they are. One guy's name is Bobby Lee, and they're talking about the comedy scene in Austin, Texas now, which is what Joe Rogan created. Joe Rogan moved to Austin, Texas, and he opened a comedy club there called the Comedy Mothership. And a lot of comedians moved there to be around Joe and to work that club and live in Austin and get out of California, etc. But in this conversation, Maron talks about, they ask him about that kind of Austin scene and that style of comedy, those kind of more right-wing guys that punch down at marginalized people in their comedy a lot. Mark Maron's never been one to do that, and I just really like this. I think that's more than enough setup.
The Austin shelf life is going to be.
I think that it's so effectively tribalized at this point. It really comes down to material. I mean, at what point, it's like whatever they represented in terms of policy, and it's not a stretch. It's like they won. Trans people are frightened. They have no ability to get health care anymore. And they're afraid of being alive and have no freedom left. So that's done. When do you stop with the jokes?
When do you stop with the jokes?
And like immigrants. Okay. Well, they're being ripped away from their homes and they're all terrified and okay. So that's done. When do you stop with the jokes?
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to pick on the vulnerable and the marginalized, but I mean, they're down.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
they're down.
Why do you got to keep hitting them? Unless you're a hack. Now, there's a question.
Mark.
He comes in swinging.
Yeah, there he goes. That was definitely a shot at Joe Rogan, by the way, and Dave Chappelle and anybody else who's doing the anti-trans stuff in their comedy acts. There's a lot of people who you don't know who are doing that stupid hacky material. All right, let's now get to another, I thought, important clip. This is the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, sitting down with some California podcaster, I think. But he's talking about the whole gerrymandering thing and what Texas has done and how California and New York will react.
Are you willing to go to stop Trump from stealing the midterms?
What's so interesting about how blue that is, that was done by an independent redistricting commission. That's the difference. We tried to play by a higher value system. It's about formal authority. It's also about moral authority. We tried to be both and. Yeah. I've long supported independent redistricting. I can't stand these gerrymander districts. I can't stand the fact that we're trying to find, everything about gerrymandering needs to be addressed nationally. Yep. And I now realize that as a promoter to do it at the state level, I thought other states would follow suit because it was the right thing to do. They didn't. No. And so we've unilaterally disarmed. Democrats can't just sit there and act holier than thou and watch this democracy completely be degraded, watch the rule of law degraded, watch a system of co-equal branches of government completely devastated and rolled back in real time by Trump and Trumpism. So we're going to stand up. That district, likely this state, the blue, will get even darker blue. As we respond to Abbott, we respond to Donald Trump, and we assert ourselves much more aggressively. And that, your prior question, the prior question of that, and this damn question, Democrats need to stop the bullshit. It's a different day. We're on our heels on everything. They're shape-shifting everything. They're winning the messaging war.
Yeah. All right. That's the current governor of California. But let's go back to a previous governor of California and a previous president of the United States talking about tariffs, because I found this old cut, and I thought I'd include it today because listening to Ronald Reagan talk about the danger of tariffs in a trade war is pretty interesting in 2025 when we're right in the midst of one, and it being done by a Republican president who shares very little in terms of, well, any characteristics with Ronald Reagan, I would argue. But nonetheless, this is just a pretty good argument. I'm not sure if he's completely right here on the economics of it, but it certainly is a case that his speechwriters and policy makers wanted to make, and it's always been an argument that conservatives have made against tariffs and trade wars and what they mean for the American consumer and business owner. And I think it's also important that what Reagan is saying here could absolutely happen. And I'm not sure that it hasn't already started to. The consequences of Hitler's dumb trade policies that are all about other countries having to come kiss his ass. Ugh. And now to the Gipper.
At first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing, protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. At first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that's not what happens here, but it very well could. Very well could. And in fact, other countries obviously as well. All right, well, we need some comedy. We need some jokes. Let's first go to NBC Late Night with Seth Meyers, just a little bit from his monologue last night.
Texas Republicans have caused a national uproar with their plan to rig the 2026 midterms by redrawing their congressional maps. Also, the president was seen wandering around on the roof of the White House. And, therein lies the constant tension of the Trump era. Republicans doing something nefarious that will undermine democracy while the president does something weird and dumb that distracts us. And it's not like you can just ignore it. If the president pops up on the roof of the White House out of nowhere, that's at least worth a mention on the news. I mean, if Obama had been caught climbing out a window in the middle of the night, I'm pretty sure Fox News would have covered it. Now, I can explain. Michelle won't let me smoke inside.
All right, that was fun, and this is even more fun. Here is Colbert on CBS last night.
You know that Trump's followers get a lot of grief from people going, no, you don't believe in anything. It's a cult of personality, blah, 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 meow, meow, meow. But I want to be fair here, okay? There is one thing that MAGA has believed from the beginning, and they still believe it. And that's that there is a secret cabal of top government officials who meet at shadowy dinners to strategize how to hide the sins of wealthy sex traffickers and pedophiles. They do believe that. And for that, I have never criticized them because I'm sure... Have I? I don't think so. Maybe I have. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Because I'm sure that kind of stuff does go on. For instance, tonight in Washington, because according to CNN, top Trump officials will discuss their Epstein strategy at a dinner hosted by J.D. Vance. Now, look, many things are shocking about that headline. First of all, this Epstein crisis has made Trump officials so desperate, they're willing to hang out with J.D. Vance. Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Come on in. Have a seat. No, not on the couch. She's not in the mood. In addition to Vance, CNN says the dinner was to be attended by White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and FBI Director Kash Patel, who definitely has seen some Everything's fine. Everything's good. I saw nothing. Just unable to close my eyes ever again. Hey, you guys, anybody have any Visine? After the CNN report, Vance's office denied he was convening this meeting. Now they're covering up the cover-up. This is worse than a conspiracy. It's a duvet.
All right, there you go. That is Colbert. That is your headlines and your clip show. Hopefully you appreciated it. I don't have ads on this show. I just plug the subscription fee. So please sign up. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. If you're paying $5, you could always pay more. If you're paying $10, you could pay more. Many of you have. It's called upgrading your pledge, editing your pledge up. Please think about it if you can. Putting a ton of work into it. Shoestring budget. It's just me every day, and I really could use your support as always. And speaking of independent journalists and media, Emily Atkin is my guest today. She's the author and founder of Heated, a weekly newsletter dedicated to original accountability, reporting, and analysis on the climate crisis. And she was previously climate staff writer at The New Republic, deputy climate editor at ThinkProgress, where I discovered her work. Her work has appeared in all kinds of different media outlets, and her mentor was investigative journalist Wayne Barrett of The Village Voice. So she knows and cares so much about journalism, integrity, honesty, and some expertise. I could go on and on. Definitely go subscribe to Heated. I'm a subscriber. Heated.world. If you care about the climate, then you should subscribe to Heated. If you don't care about the climate, then that's why you're not subscribed. If you don't care about the planet, then fine, don't subscribe to Heated.world. But if you do, Heated.world right now. Yesterday, I shared the conversation that Emily had with Bill McKibben. Today, I've got Emily here with me. And we were live yesterday on several platforms from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube.com/standupwithpete. If you want to watch this and most of my interviews, click the live tab and or watch us and join us live. Comment live. It's always fun to have you guys there. I love it, and I've heard that a lot of you do as well. Love being there. Okay, let's do it. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. Huge supporter and fan, of course, of Heated, and your latest conversation, one of the most important on the issue out there, period, with Bill McKibben. Congrats on that. And Heated's
You're so nice.
continue. Well, I mean, is it nice, or is it I think it's very important, the work that you're doing, and there's not enough of it, and certainly not in your style. Like what you are doing, what you've been doing with Heated is so important. And I was just thinking, as we're going live here, like not only do we not talk about climate in mainstream media enough, we certainly don't do live segments on cable news or anything, because when would we, I guess? Thoughts on the media's attention to the subject?
Every time I go somewhere now and people ask me what I do and I say I'm a climate journalist, it's so funny. I'm always like, yeah, it's actually really fun because I just get to make stuff up all because it's fake. So I just and that seems to get their attention.
That's, whatever it takes to get their attention. If it's not going to be the actual climate or the science. So much to talk with you about. You've got some obviously always great and important original reporting at Heated, but I wanted to get your broad contours looking at, we haven't talked, and I haven't really talked enough about climate since the election. So Trump is back. They're erasing data. They're getting rid of regulations. They're getting rid of incentives for clean energy. There's so much to discuss. It's real hard to keep track. How do you keep track of what they're doing at all the important federal agencies, et cetera?
Oh, I don't. Thanks for asking. I mean, I try my best, obviously, but I sort of had to, and I think this is good for anybody that cares about climate, understand that their strategy is to overwhelm you, right? They had their whole Project 2025 coming in. They were prepared this time. And, they're flooding the zone with deregulatory actions and defunding actions. And if you're going to stay sane, you're not going to be able to keep up with it. All you got to know is that they're trying to dismantle all of it, like the entire climate infrastructure in government. And so the question for you is okay, well, then as a person that cares about climate, what can I do to break through that? Or what is there still left to do as an individual now that this is happening? And very difficult to stop it considering we have a full Republican government, right? That doesn't think climate change is real or, doesn't care to based on who runs their campaigns, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that gives me hope, and hearing your interview with Bill McKibben helped, is that the market is really caught up in a lot of ways because of incentives for clean energy and in research and so on. but solar is so much cheaper. The battery technology is crazy good and efficient. And we can talk about other renewables. And so it's able to compete without a lot of the incentives to a certain extent. We still need them. It's crazy that they're taken away, but it feels like at this point, if you do not care about climate and you can afford, an electric car, like it might be the best thing to do just for yourself, your own budget, to get solar panels, to put them on your balcony as they are around the world. You guys talked about that, to get an EV. The big things seem to be pretty popular, or am I getting that wrong?
Well, I think that the market wants to catch up is really what I took from that interview with Bill about, where he sees us going from here and what's the next steps for the climate movement and climate concerned people. It's like the market wants to catch up and for clean energy and solar energy in particular, wants to catch up, but there are obstacles in the way. And fortunately, in this administration that we're in, there are obstacles that it's possible for us to overcome through advocacy and through organizing, right? There's so much advocacy and organizing seems fruitless, I feel like, when it comes to the Trump administration, particularly climate advocacy, because you're what are you going to do? Not get the EPA to be dismantled? They're doing that. Your protests probably aren't going to help. But so many of the things that are holding back solar development, in particular in the United States, are state and local permitting policies, are they're sort of the reason you can't plug in a rooftop solar panel and just plug it into your house is because there's no safe electricity standard for that. That's an industry thing, right? So there's state government regulations, local government regulations, and private industry things that climate concerned people can hone in their focus on and actually have a much better chance at pushing the market forward where it really wants to be.
What else did you learn in your conversation with Bill? I'm sure you'd prepped and you talked to him a bit, or were ready to talk to him. I learned so much in that interview, specifically about solar around the world. And, he's talking about how long it takes to ship a vehicle over here and how much fossil fuel that takes and so on. Did you learn anything else? Were you surprised by anything in your conversation with him?
Yeah, the one thing that I was really surprised by was how much the large-scale adaptation of solar in particular has the potential to displace fossil fuels, which, are our number one climate problem and environmental problem, right? Because I think that I have this overall feeling or idea that, you can push for renewable energy, but it's not going to do anything unless you also take away the fossil fuel energy on a climate when we're talking about climate change, right? Yeah. But in California, he threw out the statistic, and I fact checked it with the researcher that he got it from, and I thought it passed muster, which was that from 2 years ago, California is using 40% less fossil fuels than 2 years ago to generate electricity than it did because of the proliferation of solar.
It's crazy.
So 40% less, I should say, natural gas. And California is a fracking state. It's a gas state, right? And that's why the fossil fuel industry is really freaking out about all these incentives for solar and wind, because they see that it has the potential to displace them. That if people can use solar because it's the cheapest energy source on Earth, or it should be, then they won't use fossil fuels, which are very expensive.
Yeah, and filthy and dirty, of course. I was really surprised to learn about how many people across the world are just hanging solar panels on their balcony.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
People living in and around poverty or lower income, they live in an apartment. Your electric bill is a much bigger issue if you don't have as much money. And so they're able to either get rid of or reduce it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when he said, and I fact checked this too. I fact checked everything in the interview before I published it.
Yeah.
But that 1.5 million people across Germany have gone to their local Home Depot equivalent, bought a solar panel and plugged it into their house outlet and just put it on their balcony. And it's not connected to the grid at all. It just helps them generate power in their house. And it's not even, because solar here, I feel like rooftop solar, we think of it as something that is for the rich, right? It's only for the rich. It's only for the homeowners. It's only for people that are lucky enough to have locked in a low mortgage rate. It's not for me, right? I'm a renter. I've always been a renter. But in Germany, that's not the case. Renters, 1.5 million renters are just plugging solar into their apartments. And we can't do that for a number of reasons. One is the electricity standard I stated earlier. You need, the way that hair dryers have to meet a certain standard so that if you drop them into the bath or something, they won't kill you. Or
I've heard about it. It's not an issue I think much about. I'm not drying a lot of hair, but yeah, there's a safety standard on those that gets tagged to them.
Right. So we need to develop those, right? That's something that we can do, right? That's something that the Trump administration doesn't have complete control over, right? So let's develop that. The state of Utah literally 3 months ago just passed a bill that allows people, and Utah's a red state, right? It allows people to install balcony solar. So the state regulation part of that is completely done. The only thing that needs to be done in order for people in Utah to plug in a solar panel to their balcony is to have this electricity standard. So that's something to do. In any other state, if Utah can pass a law saying that it's legal for people to plug in a solar panel and not connect it to the grid, because that is the statute that exists in every state right now, is that you can't have a solar panel unless you have an agreement with your local utility to connect that solar panel to the grid, right? Libertarians hate that. People who are red-blooded, coal-loving Americans hate that. So it's something that you can, even in red states, you can easily push your legislature to do. Case in point, it already just happened.
If it happened in Utah, the argument would go that, it could happen in a lot of other red states. People realize this. One of the things I thought of when I was listening to the interview, one of the things I've been trying to say as a result of it is we have these opinions about technology that are formed for right or wrong reasons. But in case, you ever thought about solar and you did not go, it's like the ads that they force on you on YouTube. It's it's time to rethink solar. It really does seem to be, especially if the states are changing their regulations. But just in terms of the technology, and he also said, I think in your interview, there's still time to get those incentives, and I forget what the deadline was. But time to rethink solar is kind of one of the main messages I took away from your conversation with Bill McKibben. If you'd had an opinion, throw it out because the technology has rapidly changed.
Yeah, he said, I loved this quote from him. As a journalist, I'm the good quotes just live in my mind, right? He said, we have this idea that it's the Whole Foods of energy, but expensive. It's the Costco of energy. It's cheap, it's on the shelf, it's in bulk, and it's ready to go. And that's really, I think, exemplified by just how amazing battery technology has gotten, even in the last 5 years. In Vermont, where Bill lives, he's talking about how the biggest power plant in the state is actually all of the batteries that people own that are in their basements that store the solar energy that they produce from their roofs, because so many people in Vermont have solar. And all of those batteries are connected to each other through a series of wires and connected to the grid. They produce power to the grid whenever there's a lull. They essentially act as a peaker power plant. And so Vermont's grid is being powered in large part by the batteries, the huge batteries in people's homes that are storing energy that comes from the sun. It's amazing. And it should be really, really cheap. We talk about this in the interview as well, about how in Germany, in Australia, and in many other countries, solar is massively cheap to produce. And the reason that it costs double in the United States, in some cases even triple in the United States, is specifically because of state and local regulations that impose soft costs employment. You need like 5,000 inspectors. Like the process just takes so long that it winds up costing you so much money, but it's all artificial. It's like how many inspections do you need to prevent like a solar flare fire on your roof that has literally never even happened before, right? It's like these Fox News fantasies of like the danger of solar panels. Like they'll explode. Name one time. Like,
I mean, that, and I also want to point out how much more often natural gas explosions occur. Like, if that's what you're worried about, hey, if we're worried about bad things happening, for sure, let's talk about where the most bad things happen. I always want, when we talk about energy, to talk about, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as Bill said, and as you've said and documented so many times. There is no perfectly clean, renewable energy that doesn't have byproducts that are bad, including, as you guys mentioned, the lithium batteries. What about those batteries, whether it be for solar or for cars? I also feel like the technology, he mentioned the sodium batteries are they're using in certain places, sodium being like the 5th most popular element in the world. It seems like that there's been huge advances in the technology in terms of the batteries, the ability to store, the ability to charge faster and just be more efficient. Is that right? Fair to say?
Bill was saying that the solar panel that he bought and put on his roof in Vermont like 20 years ago now contains as much, it's like huge, right? It now contains as much lithium where when he was ready to retire it will be able to make 3 solar panels, right? Because as the technology has advanced, the less and less lithium is required. And I think that was also the point that he was really trying to make to me, which I totally accepted, was that, look, mining and energy in general is dirty work. The question, and it's any concerns about lithium mining and the ethicalness of it and trying to make it as environmentally friendly as possible, which is like a laughable statement for lithium. But like those are legit. But the question is, how long is energy dirty work, right? How long is lithium dirty work? So for coal, when you're done mining coal, you have to go back and you have to go get coal. When you're done burning oil and gas, you have to go get more oil and gas. What's cool about lithium is that it's reusable. So you can take a solar panel that's done and recover a good chunk of the lithium and repurpose it. So eventually the hope would be, and we know how great corporations are about recycling, so it would need to really be pushed, but the hope would be that eventually you would not need to be mining for a ton of lithium. The other thing is that a solar panel lasts, let's say 20, 30 years, right? Whereas the coal that you mined lasts for, I don't know, a day, a week, maybe. The amount that you have to keep going into the earth, heat mining is so much more than a solar panel. I think Bill was talking about how such a massive percentage of the amount of ship traffic every single day is just shipping coal and oil back and forth between countries.
It was the most important point that he made. I was listening to that interview, and in case people haven't heard it, just go to Heated. You can listen to it. I put it on my podcast today, but you can go to heated.world and listen to it on Substack. I mean, because when I was listening to it, I was trying to pull clips from it. I was like, fuck this. Just going to play the whole thing. There's so many important points in the conversation that you guys had. Well, let me ask you about just 2 more questions, big questions, I think. Just media's attention and our attention. This has always been a top issue for me. I've always cared deeply about it. I've tried to be the change I want to see, try to do the right thing, try to advocate for the right policies and people, talk to young people. I do everything I can, but even for me, this issue has waned a little bit behind the demise of democracy, the rise of fascism, the deportation of everybody that isn't white, and what's happening in Gaza. Like, there's so many things that seem so much more imminent, and yet climate is still such a huge and important issue. And I wonder what you feel like, or what your data tells you the attention on the issue has been, seeing as that you cover it for a living.
I mean, it's tough, right? Like I feel that as a climate reporter. And I have to remind myself that if I'm paying attention to, if I care about something that even touches climate a little bit, like the deportation of Americans, obviously that touches, migration is a huge climate issue, and advocating for, fair and just migration policies is being a climate activist.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. In its own way. The climate is so intersectional and it touches so many things. So I remind myself of that constantly. Being an anti-war activist is being a climate advocate in some way. Like the climate cost of war is massive. The ecological, there's an ecocide in Gaza as well as a genocide. Sure. So these things touch each other. I will say that Heated is doing well. So people still care a lot, people care about the climate, they care about the environment, and they want to know, and they especially want to know about AI, like the AI boom, the tech boom. And that, by the way, is another huge area where people can be effective because private companies are not controlled by Trump, even though he's trying to control them, right? The market is still determined by us, the people, the consumers. So we have power in our dollars and we have power with corporations. And so I'm really trying to focus on AI and tech and the climate and water impact. People care about that. And I think what I'm really seeing is that people are overwhelmed by the amount of climate and environment stuff, and they do not care, as we were saying in the top of this conversation, they do not care to know every single thing. They want it contextualized for them. They can just be informed enough to know, okay, Trump is dismantling the environmental and climate regulatory state. Is there anything I can do? If not, I'm going to move on to something that I can do something about and that I can change the conversation about.
Yeah, I like that. That was the last thing I was going to ask you. What is being done? Again, hard to keep track of it all. This was the plan. It's always been the plan. Fossil fuel money still matters a huge amount to electoral politics, and it's kind of cultural, right? The right loves burning fossil fuel. I think partly just to trigger people who like clean air and are environmentalists and so on. So that's still a thing, even though it's so funny to watch those videos where an EV beats a Ferrari in a race. You just want to be to the core of your masculinity. One of the core masculine things is fast car.
And it's oh, well, guess what? Car's faster. No, I really feel when you say that, I feel so much of the big fight that's happening right now, particularly in a year when they're the one party that kind of accepts climate change has no power. It's so much of the fight that regular people can engage in right now is cultural. It's making caring about the planet that you live on cool, right? It's making not wanting to engage in, climate destruction really cool. It's making solar cool, which is, I think Bill did a really good job of making solar cool to me in that interview. And I think that what the fossil fuel bros do really well is that they're such hype people for their shitty technology, right? They're such hype people for their gross exhaust that that gives you asthma, right? They love a gas stove. And the gas stove might be cooler to sear a steak, but you are breathing in stuff that
the
gives
weird
you
thing.
fully brain damage, right? So it's I have a gas stove in my apartment, right? Because I rent, because I'm not rich. So, but I have an electric grill, I have an induction burner, and when my friends come over, I'm using those things, right? Because I'm yeah, well, we're all hanging out here and I don't want you to start having an asthma attack, or I don't want your kid who's visiting to breathe in these things. And I always make sure to say things like that. I think carnivore diets have gotten huge, which is the craziest thing from an environmental perspective. There's so much misinformation out there now about how actually cows are good for the planet.
I just saw some story. There's a research paper about how much bullshit research is being published to cloud, people's ideas to obfuscate from from the truth. And, you mentioned that there's just so much nonsense out there, from vaccines to climate science. People can cite a paper that'll tell them whatever they want and then ride off into the sunset with their new stupid opinion.
Well, you know what? Also, it's like, I think this era that we're in right now is horrible, right? And so much of the area where it's horrible is like online, on the internet, existing on the internet, existing with like buying a lot of things, hyper consumerism, and none of it is making us happier. And so for me, the place where environmentalism and climate activism can be really effective is getting people into nature at this point, connecting people with nature, making people like connected to sustainability in their own lives. And it's not like the individual choices you make will change. They'll have like a huge effect on like big beef, but they will eventually make you happier because you'll feel more connected to where you live and the nature around you.
I love that you're saying that that's a really good thing to do. I mean, I've been a proselytizer of that idea, and specifically of certain writers like Richard Louv for years, a good friend of mine. So I think that's awesome that if that's a helpful thing to do for people, then great. Just know that if you go to a national park, the trash is going to be overflowing. You might not get in, but there's a lot of other places to go. All right. I have a million more questions for you. I'm really happy that you have a lot of friends that come over. I think that's cool. A lot of people are lonely. I have friends over. I cook for them. Like, wow, what's that like? Friends, they come over? You guys hang out?
Yeah. Well, and that's like, we were talking before the recording started, before the live started, like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm actually mentally doing much better. And a lot of it is because I just started taking some of my own advice that I just said right here, is that like, if I'm going to be an environmental reporter covering climate, like I need to be outside more. I need to be, as the kids say, touching grass more, connecting with my community more, and just like actively caring about the thing that I care about individually. And it's not to save the planet. It's to help me feel better doing the work that I do every day. Like it's so I can come to my computer and write about climate change, write about systemic issues, and like feel okay.
Love it. The next time I have the opportunity to talk to you, I want to try to come and do it somewhere outside, live. We'll do it live outside, and we'll talk about the things that we love most about outside. What are you scared of? What are you most scared of, nature-wise?
That the groundhog in my backyard is going to eat every single thing in my garden.
Oh, he's going to. I gave up on gardening as a result of him and his family.
I mean, that's like that, on an individual basis. That's what's scaring me the most. Could you ever bring yourselves to either terminating his life or transporting him in one of those safe have a heart cages? It's so funny, like the joke that I keep making, because everyone's like, you should get a fence, and I'm like, I should get a gun. But like the actual, that's the joke, because deep down inside, I'm sort of like, well, I'm feeding this groundhog, and so like I don't really need it. Like I guess I'm glad the groundhog's happy. No, I'm not. I'm gonna let the groundhog eat my stuff. And
I love it.
My friend actually told me that if I buy this like weird pine soap and hang it around my garden in pantyhose, that animals don't like the smell of that, and maybe that'll keep them away.
Your friend is wrong, and I'm here to tell you I'm so bitter because I tried everything. I stood there in pantyhose, covered in Irish Spring soap, dressed Rambo, and they a groundhog walked up to me, gave me the middle finger, ate my shit. They're amazing. They're amazing.
That sounds like a Philadelphia groundhog. That's what I have.
They're the worst and the best. Listen, Emily, I always appreciate your time and your work. If people aren't subscribed right now, go now. Heated.world. I could never cancel my subscription to Heated.world because it feels like I'm canceling on the planet and all the critters. Yeah. That's why I feel like I'm supporting your work. Yeah, but the larger. Yeah. Tell everybody. Yes, that's it. It's over. That was Emily Atkin, Heated.World. Go subscribe, and I hope that you learned a lot from it and enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to talking to Emily again. Go subscribe to her work, and thank you for subscribing to mine at patreon.com/Pete Dominic. If you're not already subscribed, hey, now is the time. I hope to see you at tonight's Hangout at 8 p.m. Should be a ball, a fun time, rejuvenating as always. Lots of laughs, lots of great insights from across the country. Our very diverse community. I hope to see you there tonight. I hope Jon Carroll is joining us, as he does very, very often. He was there Monday night. Hope to see him tonight as he's out there performing on tour. You should go see him. JonCarroll.org right now. Buy his new album, and I will talk to you tomorrow with John Fugelsang.
Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up. Stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it than now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well, and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up. People got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on.